I'm standing actually outside the house of Ariel Castro. He is one of three brothers who has been arrested in connection with the abduction of these three women. And it all started to unfold last night, just at about 5 to 6, when there was this dramatic call to the emergency services from Amanda Berry, who said that she had escaped from the house behind me. She'd been kidnapped for years, and please could the police come and get her. And as the mayor of Cleveland said, there are three basic questions in this case. Why were the women taken? How? And why did they go undetected for so very long? And that's the question that neighbours on this quiet street in downtown Cleveland are asking today. Ariel Castro was actually quite a chatty member of this neighbourhood.
And you listed some of the questions the authorities trying to find answers for. I mean, one of them would be how the woman was able to alert neighbours on this occasion, but at no other stage in those 10, 12 years.
Exactly. I mean, clearly she was in a position where she was able to escape from the house. But the fact is, was this really the only opportunity in all that time? Neighbours have been telling the BBC that Ariel Castro would play very, very loud music during the day. He's a school bus driver, and quite often his school bus would be parked here. The police did actually have an encounter with Ariel Castro a few years ago because he left a child on his bus in 2004. As a result of that, the police checked in with him. There was a report to Child Protection Services, but it came to nothing in the end. So he was on the radar of the police just briefly for that period. But neighbours on this street are in shock. They can't believe that these three women who came out of the house last night may have been for all those years. We don't know whether they were in this house, but certainly they were there in recent times. And people are just astonished by what's happened.
Laura Trevelyan, thanks very much. Thank you.
Now, police in the United States have praised the bravery of three women who were rescued from a house in Cleveland, Ohio, after going missing on separate occasions around a decade ago. A man who lived at the property and two of his brothers have been arrested. The three women who were presumed dead have been reunited with their families. Michelle Knight was in her early 20s when she disappeared in 2002. Amanda Berry was 16 when she vanished in 2003 after calling her sister to say she had a lift home from her job at a fast food chain. And a year later, Gina de Jesus, who was 14, went missing on her way home from school. Well, our correspondent Laura Trevelyan is in Cleveland, Ohio for us now, in the neighbourhood where the women were discovered. And Laura, if you could begin just first of all, please, by giving us a sense of how people are feeling about all of this. It must be difficult to understate, I would say, the surprise, the shock, the joy.
People here on Seymour Avenue are feeling a whole range of emotions, as you can imagine. Just behind me is the house where Ariel Castro lived. He's one of the three brothers who are now under arrest, suspected of being connected with the abduction and kidnapping of these three women. That house behind me is where, in an extraordinary scene last night, the three women were found after one of them had escaped and managed to call the police. So neighbours here have been reflecting all day on what they knew about the Castro brothers, and in particular Ariel Castro, who lived on this street. And neighbours have been telling me, by and large, that this was a gregarious family, that Ariel Castro was someone that you would barbecue with, he was someone that you would hang out with. He was even someone who would discuss with neighbours on the street the disappearance of Amanda Berry, because a few years ago the police tried to dig up what they thought was where she had been buried. And this was the kind of information that would be discussed openly by Ariel Castro, who's now a suspect in her disappearance. So only one woman said to me that she thought there was something suspicious about the house and that she called the police, but they didn't follow up on it. So this is really the key question, is how could it be that these women were apparently somewhere in this neighbourhood for over a decade undetected?
And yes, those are the big questions, aren't they, Laura, that will be start to be asked after this initial elation of the discovery of the women and, of course, the 6-year-old girl who was found in that house. What sort of questions do you think the police will be looking at now? What will they be looking at in terms of questions from the media, from internal sources within the police?
Well, the police have said that back in 2004 they actually interviewed Ariel Castro. He was a school bus driver, and there was a report that they received that a child was left alone in a school bus. And so they interviewed him to check on the situation, but they didn't find anything suspicious to do with the wider house. So they have had contact with him, but in a completely different context. But behind me right now, there are FBI agents in the house going through it, searching for forensic evidence. The house is now a crime scene as the search for answers begins.
And Laura, what can you tell us about the three women and the young child who were discovered there? Where are they, and who's talking to them?
Well, very little has been revealed by the police about the women, other than to say that they are in fair condition, that they did go to hospital, that they have now left hospital. They're being debriefed by an FBI special agent about their decade-long ordeal. They have been reunited with their families. Beyond that, we don't have much detail, but clearly this is just must have been a period of extraordinary torment for them. And when you hear that recording of Amanda Berry calling the 911 services and saying that she's free and that they must come and get her immediately.
Help me, I'm Amanda Berry.
You need police? Okay, and what's going on there?
I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years, and I'm here, I'm free now.
Okay, stay there with those neighbors, talk to the police when they get there.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, talk to the police when they get there.
No, I need them now before he gets back.
Laura, tell us about these unanswered questions we heard of earlier from the police there. What are they, and what kind of concerns do they have about the narrative so far?
Well, Hugh, the basic concern that I'm hearing from neighbours here on Seymour Avenue is how was it that these women were apparently, as one neighbour said to me, hiding in plain sight, that they were here somewhere in this neighbourhood for over a decade. The police are coming in for some very tough questions, and there's no doubt that the police were on the defensive because they did actually interview Ariel Castro. That's his house behind me that you can see, which is now an active crime scene. They interviewed him back in 2004. He was a school bus driver, and a child was left alone in his school bus in a totally unaccountable manner. So he was someone who had come to the attention of police. But really what people want to know is how could these women, all three of them, have been abducted? Why did it happen? Are these three brothers who have been arrested, although not yet charged, are they the ones behind it? Those are the questions that this shocked community is asking tonight, Hugh.
Laura, once again, thanks very much. Laura Trevelyan for us there with the latest in Cleveland, in Ohio.
Clive, here on Seymour Avenue, the mood is one of shock and absolute disbelief. There are many people on this street who know the three Castro brothers. If you look behind me, you can see that there are forensic teams dressed in the hazmat clothing who are now on the scene. That's Ariel Castro's house. They're bringing out anything that could possibly be used as evidence. This is a crime scene now, this house, and we were told that there were at least 20 law enforcement officials there who are going through that house with a fine tooth comb as they try and find out how on earth it was that these three women could have hidden in plain sight, as one neighbour said to me, and gone undetected for so many years, Clive.
And one of the prime suspects, Laura, has actually been interviewed by the police in connection with another matter in the past.
Yes, the police spoke to Ariel Castro back in 2004. He was a school bus driver, and he, for some reason, left a child alone on a school bus. So Child Protection Services were informed, and the police came to interview Ariel Castro, but nothing came of it. That didn't go anywhere, and that was almost 10 years ago. But talking to neighbours here on the street, just one woman of the many that I spoke to today told me that she was suspicious about Ariel Castro's house. She said she'd been told by one of her relatives that a woman had been seen crawling naked in the backyard. So she told the police, and nothing ever happened. There was never any follow-up. But apart from that, all the people I've spoken to have said that the Castros were gregarious. One neighbour described them as a model family, people that you would like to hang out with and barbecue with. But here's one thing, Clive, very interesting. I asked all those neighbours, did you ever go to any of the houses of any of the Castro brothers? And they all said, no, we never crossed the threshold.
And the condition of the three women now that they've been released unharmed?
Not very much detail. The police said this morning that the women were taken to hospital, as you would expect, for checkups, that they seem to be in fair condition, in fair physical condition. That is, they are being debriefed by an FBI special agent. But of course, everyone here on this street is just wondering at the mental torment and the anguish that they went through for all those years in captivity. And you got just a sense of that anguish when you heard Amanda Berry speaking on that 911 call to emergency workers, when she talked about her desperation and called for people to come and rescue her now that she had finally managed to escape.
Laura Trevelyan reporting live from Cleveland, Ohio. Thanks, Laura.